Hello children, in today's class we are going to discuss about how a friction can be increased or reduced. So we have discussed so many examples related to friction like rubbing one object against another object, whether striking a matchstick or else walking on the floor or else when you're riding on a bicycle. So where everywhere on your day-to-day experience, on your day-to-day life, you meet so many examples related to friction. And now we are going to discuss how this friction actually increases or it is getting reduced by using an object in between. So the very first example which you're going to discuss is the shoes example you can consider. So have you ever thought why the soles of your shoes has been grooved out? So grooved means a kind of pattern or a kind of depression which has been given in the shoes. Just see here, in this shoe they have just given a pattern on a hard material. The shoe which is made up of a leather, on this hard material they will make a pattern giving a strong depression on it. So the reason behind that is it will provide a better grip on the floor when you move. So when you move on the floor with the shoe, so that it will allow you to move very safely. If the shoe is not going to be grooved out, what will happen? You may tend to fall down. So that is the reason why the soles of the shoes has been grooved. As well as you might have you might even consider the tires of a cars or else trucks and even bulldozers. They all has been, the tires of all these vehicles has been treaded out. So treaded in the sense these kinds of patterns they will make on the tires. So when they make this kind of cut patterns on the tires, what will happen? It will provide a better friction between the surface and the tire. So if the friction is not going to work out, if there is no grip between the tire and the surface, what will happen? The vehicle will not be able to stop, right? Even if you apply brake, due to the smoothness on the between the tire and the surface, the vehicle will not stop and it may lead to many issues. So to increase the friction, the soles of the shoes as well as the tires are treaded because of this reason, so that it will provide a better grip with the ground. I hope you understood this concept. And now let us discuss few examples related to this friction, how a friction has been increased or reduced. So in case if you are riding a bicycle and if you apply brake all of a sudden, how does the cycle stops? It is not only because of the friction between the surface and the tire, it is because of the brake pads which has been fixed between the tire. So on both the ends of the tire in between they would have fixed a brake pad. You might have noticed that. So if you have not noticed, just check again in your cycle. So when you apply brake, what will happen? Those brake pads will touch the moving tire. So what will happen? So the brake pads will touch the rim of the tire and immediately your cycle stops. There the brake pads will increase friction in your bicycle. That is the reason your cycle stops actually. And you might have seen that the kabaddi players, they will rub their hands with the soil. So what is the reason behind that? To get a better grip of their opponents. So in case if they have a better grip by rubbing soil in their hands, what will happen? They might easily catch the opponents. So that is the reason for applying soil in their hands. Even gymnasts, they will apply some coarse substances on their hands to increase the friction for a better grip when they are working on gymnastic. And even a very simple example, carom board. So if you're playing with a carom board, you will sprinkle the fine powder inside on the carom board. So what is the reason behind that? When you sprinkle the fine powder, it will reduce the friction between the striker and the board. So if it reduces the friction, the striker will be able to move very smooth on the board. Otherwise, it gets interlocked between the surface of the carom board and between the striker. So due to the friction, it gets interlocked and it will not move very smooth. So that's why we sprinkle the fine powder. And even one more example you can consider, the hinges of a door. If it is moving very tight, what we will do, we will pour some few drops of oil on the hinges of the door, so that the door moves very smooth. Even in a bicycle or else in a even in a bicycle or else in a motorbike, the mechanic used to grease between the moving parts of these machines. So why they are greasing between the moving parts of these machines? To make the vehicles move very smooth. See here, the powder has been sprinkled on the carom board to reduce the friction. This you can even try it in your home. The simple activity, you try it out like without sprinkling the powder, just wipe off the remaining powder on the carom board and try to move the striker. It moves a very little distance, and after sprinkling the powder, if you strike the striker, what will happen? The striker will move very smooth on the board. So you can try this activity in your home and post pics regarding this. See here, when oil or grease or graphite which is applied between the moving part of a machine, for example, you can consider you will oil your chains of the bicycle. So the mechanics, if you take it to the mechanic shop, what they will do, they will oil the chain of the bicycle. So when they oil it, what will happen? You will not get some sounds when you ride the bicycle, and your bicycle will tend to move very smooth because of the thin layer which is formed between the moving parts of your bicycle. So the reason is, when you apply some greasing substances like oil or any grease or as a graphite, what will happen? It will form a very thin layer on the moving surfaces. So it will not directly rub against each other. Usually friction means rubbing things against each other, right? So the chains will not rub against the other layers. So what will happen? You will not get the sound, and you will be able to move the vehicle very smooth. So that interlocking of irregularities is avoided to a very great extent, and the movement becomes very smooth. And the substances that reduce friction are called lubricants. The oil or the grease or any other substances which you use to reduce the friction are called lubricants. See here how the lubricants work actually. For example, you can consider this as the surface, and if you are greasing it with some oil or grease, the lubricant will form this kind of a thin layer on the surface which you have applied. This is how a lubricant will work. So I hope you understood this concept. We'll meet in the next class, children. Thank you.